Well, all right. What's up, folks? Man, just finished watching the press conference from the Omaha police chief and the Omaha mayor, who did a press conference earlier today. And then in the second press conference of the day, he meets with the police chief, as it seems like they have concluded that investigation into the traffic stop of Terence Crawford, his head of security. Coach Malachi was in the vehicle, and it was somebody else. And the chief did state that the body cam footage hasn't been released, but they are looking for Coach Malachi. I guess they want to speak with him. They said they've been unable to reach the two occupants in the back seat of the vehicle, so they looking for them to reach out to and speak with. They haven't been able to speak to Terence Crawford because Terence is out there in Saudi Arabia with Turkey. So I guess he's out there doing business with Turkey Al Sheikh, probably trying to set up his next fight. um what is it the chief put out there? But all in all, the accounts from what the officer put out, they matched up to what all the video evidence showed, and it looks like the officers are going to be cleared. But like I stated, they state they because reporter asked why they haven't released the video footage yet. Sorry, I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. Let me get away from this tree. But I don't know if they put the video footage. Well, no, not. I don't know if they didn't put the video footage. They didn't put the video footage out because they said that Terence Crawford has a right to privacy, and they haven't been able to speak with Terence since the investigation is concluding. They went through everything because they stated that Terence is over in Saudi Arabia, and they haven't really been able to speak to the guy who's the head of security as well. And then they're looking for the backseat passengers, which would be Coach Malachi and whoever had the camera when they recorded it, recorded the video. That ended up going up. But what the chief did state in the interview was the officer had no idea of who he was pulling over. So it wasn't like it was nothing targeted. So it wasn't a targeted stop. It wasn't like they knew it was Terence Crawford. The chief said that the vehicle they were in was a new vehicle. There were no license plates on it, but they spotted the vehicle speeding by. So therefore, the officer initiated a traffic stop. Now, I salute this police chief. This police chief seems to be straight up, handles these press conferences very well, and he detailed everything that they came out of the internal investigation on the cop. So I don't think it was that. Like I kind of felt that way. I felt there wasn't that much to the situation. I just think that's the way cops handle that shit, and that becomes one of the competing type of things that goes on with places that have gun rights, like where you have open carry laws and shit, and then officers engaging in traffic stops. And so you have that situation because they did state, and the video footage even supported that the gun that the guy said was on the ground, they said that Terrence's gun was under the seat. So that's where people want quick access to their weapons and shit. But if you're getting pulled over by a cop, probably secure that shit in the middle console. Don't do too much moving, looking around and all that other shit, because officers still have to kind of be alert while they're out there, and sometimes they have to be on edge and ready. So they stated that the one officer spotted the gun on the floor, and anytime there's a gun in the situation, the officers have the right to pull the gun. That's what that chief said, even by their policy and shit. But now they're looking into altering the policy on traffic stops of now asking people whether or not they have a weapon with them and stuff. So and then you get some issues out of that because a reporter followed that statement from the police chief about, so now all of a sudden you guys want to go about changing this policy rule now that somebody high profile is involved in this situation. Now you got all that. So that's always kind of the balance when you're dealing with political type stuff, any type of things that generate any type of uh any type of media attention. And then now it's getting this kind of coverage and changes to altering laws, prevent things when others have gone through it, that now when a celebrity happens to be involved in a situation, things start to get changed, heads start to roll, uh, and actions start to take place. So that was the thing. They stated that when they seen the vehicle drive by, it matched up with the surveillance cameras that are everywhere. They see him go by. It wasn't like it was a targeted stop. It wasn't like the officer knew that it was Terence Crawford in this vehicle. There are no plates on the vehicles. They initiated a stop. They say when they pull up to the vehicle, the passenger, not the driving officer, but the partner of the officer who engaged in it was the first ones to walk up. He stated that they had conversations with the head of security. They were speaking. The head of security let him know he was armed. Terrence leaned over to tell him he was armed as well. And the one officer said he did spot the gun halfway underneath the floor and halfway sticking out underneath the seat, the driver's seat, and halfway sticking out. And he says once they got that, that's when they pulled him out. Guess they followed the video of seeing whether the cop was pulling him over as far as being targeted. Oh, that's Terrence over there. Let's pull him over. They said there's none of that. Nothing supports that. When they walk up to the vehicle, they had no idea of it being Terence Crawford. Even in the conversation, he really didn't. They stated that he didn't know it was Terence until they were pulling him out the vehicle. The driver on the passenger side was the first one to recognize it was Terence. And he said it was clear that he knew it was Terence because I guess he may have made through his body language or his reaction to probably something like, damn, that's when they began to know it was Terence Crawford. But during the stop, they didn't know it was him. Once they had the gun in the vehicle, they had to clear everything, make sure the guns were registered to them. Everything else is cleared. So that's what it turned out to. So it's going to be nothing from this, but the way in which the department goes about handling traffic stops and the fact that somebody may have a weapon in a state where you're allowed to carry your weapons. But it's always a thing, even if you're in a state where you're allowed to carry weapons, like you got to have them things concealed somewhere. And then Ricky E in the building, salute. He says, peace, fam. Salute my brother Ricky E. Well, yeah, just going over this update on what they stated about the traffic stop and the fact that nothing's going to happen out of this one. They're going to wait for Terrence to get back. If Terrence wants the video to be released, then they'll release the video. But like I say, like the chief said, they've been unable to speak to Terrence because he's out there in Saudi Arabia. But also they're trying to talk to Coach Malachi, is what that chief ended up saying in that press conference. Damn, look at that hawk. Beautiful bird. Look at him looking for some shit. Oh, that's a goddamn big ass pigeon. Yo, chunky ass pigeon. I thought he was a hawk. That fool looking for some damn hawk. Or is that a hawk? Now that might be a hawk. Yeah, he landed like a pigeon. Pigeons, wait, no, those are hawks. Or no, a hawk just flew over this damn pigeon. That was a pigeon. And the hawk didn't do nothing. All right, what the hell is that mug? Oh no, maybe that is a hawk, because pigeons do that they wing straight up in the air when they trying to land. But that's a beautiful bird. And but yeah, so that's what ended up coming out of this one. So this one ends up being a big nothing burger, like they said. So there's nothing coming out of this. I didn't see much out of it. You didn't see the officers being aggressive towards them once they pulled them out at gunpoint. Um, it was what it was, but you just had it's just an unfortunate thing. Here the guy has a parade in his hometown. Here this guy's finishing celebrating his birthday, and then here he is being pulled over at the end of the events following the night. But one thing that was raised by a question following the press conference was about racial profiling. Now, could that have been a situation? Now, that's one that the chief couldn't argue, because the chief even pointed out, and the chief, I like this police chief because he kept some shit real funky in the press conference. As he stated, man, that across this nation, there is a disparaging, statistics on the number of traffic stops as they relate to whether it's when you look at race as a factor and even people's class being a factor, that blacks across the nation are more commonly pulled over, and more of their traffic stops involve an officer having to pull a gun out of them to pull them out of a vehicle. And there's a huge issue within the departments, his department as well as the departments across the country. That racial profiling is definitely a factor. But in probably listening to the audio, probably didn't hear them saying, "Oh, look at those black guys in the nice cars. Too many black people in there. Let's stop." From what the chief made it seem as if it was a traffic stop initiated off the speed of vehicle. Or I think he even said he flew through a stop sign. I don't know if he flew through a stop sign or what it was, and that initiated the stop. And them not knowing who the vehicle is. Because I was like, man, it was gonna prove that this cop was harassing them based on it with them pulling up a license plate, unless it's a rental car. But they said the vehicle vehicle was a new vehicle and had no plates. It's hard to argue that one. And it looks like this was going to turn out as being nothing more than a traffic stop, and then a lesson learned from, even if you are registered to carry a weapon, of how the weapon should be stored inside the vehicle as well. But that's all I got, man. Hopefully avoid anything like this, or if you pulled over by a cop, remain calm. Like they say, they were all respectable. They didn't escalate the situation at all, and the ordeal lasted, what, 30 minutes. I think they said they were in handcuffs for about 10 minutes, and that was it. It wasn't nobody being roughed up or anything like that. It's just unfortunate it's happened to be the face of Omaha who ended up being stopped. But race and all that stuff, unproven in this shit. I don't rock with that all the time in these situations. I'm not no anti-cop talking ass dude. Ain't with none of that shit. I'm all about the real shit. I ain't with conspiracies, whole shits. If I identify racial shit, I point it out all the time. But it is what it is. So we see what Terrence say once he comes back from Saudi Arabia, or if he pushes for the department to release the body cam footage. But if it supports everything the chief put out, they're not going to release that body cam footage. But that's all I got. Peace.